Final Fantasy XIV, a huge controversy. Are big streamers being carried through the content? Is that really a controversy? Is this a bear I really want to poke? Well, I'm here, so I'm gonna poke away. So in my opinion, I think carrying can be represented as a logarithmic scale, where at the top, you have an absolute carry, and at the bottom, no carry whatsoever. I will represent this in cases, where we will start at the top and work our way towards the bottom. You can think of each case as being a magnitude, sort of like an earthquake scale. Case 5. Absolute carry. The absolute form of being carried would be paying a group of players to beat the content for you. They are literally carrying you to victory, and the payer's performance in the content does not matter. So why is this bad? The payer is able to clear the content that they couldn't do otherwise, and the carriers make money. Seems like a pretty good exchange. The sinister effect of this can be seen in World of Warcraft. What started to happen is the group finder began to fill up with more and more groups that were advertising carries, making it very difficult for players to find normal parties. However, there is a pretty striking difference between WoW and FF14 in that WoW players can directly buy gold from Blizzard, which really exasperated on the problem. To be clear, the problem was there before gold could be directly bought. This is a very good reason why some players have animosity towards carries of this nature. It starts to destroy an individual's ability to just progress normally. Suddenly, you have to pay to get into groups. Case 4. Joining groups without the experience needed. So another form of carrying is when a player or players join a progression group pushing the enrage, or some later phase, or a farm group looking to get mounts or weapons, and these players lack the prerequisite experience. This leads to those players underperforming. Due to not knowing the fights, their DPS is much lower than what would be expected. They die to mechanics, they kill other players, it's just a really miserable experience. So in this case, the player is trying to get the kill without putting the work in, and also without having to pay for it. When you join a group with the expectation of trying to beat the enrage, or that it will be on farm, and then multiple wipes start to happen, well, groups often fall apart under those circumstances. That can really suck, especially if you spent a bunch of time putting the group together. I can tell you in my experiences with WoW that I had many groups that I spent 40 plus minutes putting together, falling apart after one trash or one boss pull because players died or DPS was really low. I've seen it happen in Final Fantasy XIV as well. It's a universal problem. This is a reason why Case 5 can be so detrimental. It makes it very hard to find players since you can never really know if they know the fights or just paid for the achievement. Case 3. Having players in the group that know the fight. So here's where things get a little bit less straightforward. I think anyone can agree that if a player cleared an encounter under the circumstances of Case 5 and Case 4, that they were carried. In this case, you have a few party members that have already cleared the fight, but everyone in the party will be good at their job and have done research so that the fight can progress smoothly. It's still progression. People still need to learn the fight. They need to play well, but it is significantly easier due to having players that have already cleared the fight. One of the reasons raid encounters are difficult is the whole group needs to learn the fight together. As you increase the number of players that have already beaten the encounter, that difficulty decreases, and that scales as you increase the amount of players that have beaten the encounter. This is why I would consider this being carried, because the encounter is going to be made easier by having players that know what they are doing. These players can help explain mechanics, positioning, and they also don't have to learn the fight, which is the big one. Like I said before, part of what makes getting through a raid encounter difficult is getting the whole party to learn all the mechanics, and how to execute on them. Case 2. Video guides. So then this case would be where you have a group of players that never did the fight, but have had assistance by watching a video guide. I believe that raid encounters can be separated into two important aspects: the puzzle and the execution. When you watch a video guide, the puzzle part of the fight is lessened, or flat out removed. You know the best way to position for all the mechanics, where to tank the boss, how to handle all the mechanics. So the hard part then is getting the execution down, which is difficult, and I am not trying to take away from that. What I am saying is, by watching a video guide, you have made the encounter a little bit easier. To me, that constitutes as a little bit being carried. Watching video guides is universally accepted. Most groups want or even require you to have watched a video and have an idea of what to do. There's a reason why finding a blind progression party is so hard. Most people don't want to do it. I think the community mostly agrees that execution is the most important aspect of a raid encounter. In terms of our earthquake analogy, this barely even registers on the scale, but there certainly is a little bit of a blip. Case 1. Blind progression. A complete blind progress party is the absolute form of no carry. These groups have no idea what to expect from the encounter, have to figure out mechanics, positioning, and the strategy all on their own. There is really nothing else to say about this. They have to figure out the puzzle and also execute. It's the whole shebang. So this is the way I rationalize carrying. It's my opinion and I completely made it up. But I think it makes sense. Blind progression is, in my opinion, the most pure form of beating a raid encounter, where there is no carrying whatsoever. It stands to reason then, that anything outside of that would be considered as being carried. As you go up the scale, that increases exponentially in magnitude until you are at the point of having 7 people beat the fight for you. This makes sense in my head at least. So the whole controversy of streamers being carried, the whole Richcobb thing, I personally find it to all be very silly. According to how I laid things out, they are not being carried any more than most of the player base is. They are, however, being held to a standard that is unfair and way harsher than anyone else. What they have is streamer privilege. They have access to resources that the vast majority of players do not have. But even with that being said, from what I saw, they aren't being carried any more than most of the player base is, at least in raid encounters. Anyways, that's what I feel about this topic. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day.